So Steve, you having your own therapy sessions, what do you, if you had a magic wand, how would you maybe fix this mental health problem that's going on in the world? By that I mean, is there any way that we could fix this? Do you think maybe opening up more clinics around could help people? How do you think we would go about to maybe solve this issue about people not getting the help that they need?
Well, it's easy for me to give my reasons that I feel so strongly about, and they are, one, that most people in the government don't care. They've got other things to worry about. They need to put in a new bridge over here. Well, that's money, so it's not going to go to mental health. So they put everything together, and whatever's left over for those insignificant mental health people is what you get. But it is far more than that. It's the people all over the world don't accept that mental illness can be as debilitating as cancer, which everybody wants to beat. They want to beat heart disease. They want to beat everything. But mental health, no big deal. So until the attitude changes, people are going to continue to fall through the cracks. They're going to get bad help. The pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies are going to feel that they don't have to really support mentally ill as much as they do physical medicine. So that's my opinion. And you can bring things up like money and resources and all that. But you know what? For a lot of big problems in this world, they find the money. And they get the resources and they pull the people together. But for mental health, right now, the way it is, it's gotten better since I was 9 years old, but it's still in the dark ages. I mean, why should somebody, say somebody is a child molester, and he commits an act against a kid and he gets caught. Automatically, where does he go? Jail. Everybody wants him in jail. Get him out of the system. Nobody ever thinks, well, maybe this guy has a problem in his brain that forces him to do these things. And maybe we should give him the care mentally he needs so we can rehabilitate him. And then maybe we should take the victim and give them the care they need so their life isn't ruined. Today, in the psychiatric community, more and more therapists, psychiatrists, counselors are leaving the business because they can't make a good living. And we just let it continue. They're going to be, I forget, I read not long ago that the number is going to be about 30% less psychiatrists in the next 30 or 40 years. How can you fix the problem if you're forcing everybody to go look for someplace else for a job?
Yeah, I feel like it might be one of those things where for the government to actually do something about this, it has to hit them firsthand. We saw, we got the military-industrial complex going on. We have billions of dollars to send overseas to different countries, but we don't have money to give to our own people. So it's one of those things where it has to affect these politicians directly for them to actually take note of it. For example, during the draft, politicians, senators and congressmen's kids are being drafted to the war. That's fine when they realized, hey, this draft probably isn't a good idea because it was impacting them directly. It has to happen. A lot of times it has to happen directly to the people for them to understand what it means to actually go through these things, to actually have a child that had this happen to them before things actually are able to change legislation. It's very frustrating, and it sucks, and it's very, very unfair. I don't wish this happened to anybody in Congress or anything like that, but it kind of sucks. It has to hit people a lot of times firsthand for them to kind of realize how important this is. But like you said, they find money for everything. Why can't they not find money for this? I lived in California for the last couple of years, and the homeless people that I see out there on the streets all suffer from kind of some mental health condition. And how do you expect for them to live if you aren't helping them in that sense? If somebody, like you said, if somebody breaks a bone and can't walk, what do? We pay for their surgery. There's government funding for surgery. Oh, because they gotta walk. If they can't walk, how are they gonna be part of society? Well, same thing. If their brain can't function properly, how are they gonna be a part of society? It's the same thing as like a broken bone in a sense, or a problem with the heart. We're so good at funding these things and pumping money into this, but when it comes to mental health, seems to have no money in it for some reason. We had money years ago, but it got changed. Legislation got changed. It got taken out because we used to have a lot of mental health clinics, but then people were getting taken advantage of. It wasn't done right. It wasn't done right, so it got completely destroyed because it was not being done right. A lot of bureaucratic stuff, a lot of abuse was happening, so they wiped it all out. But the solution was to change it, to maybe make the rules a little bit stricter, make the regulations a little bit tighter. But they chose to cop out and take the easy way and just get rid of all institutions and things like that. And now it seems like we got to start slowly bringing them back because people need help. We can't just tell somebody, go for a walk, like you're saying. We can't just tell somebody, hey, just meditate for a little bit, it'll go away. No, because it might go away from you, but you're not the one suffering from these thoughts, these ideas. I'm curious, Steve, any information about the recent use of psychedelics, like ketamine or like mushrooms or LSD? And do you have any information on that? So I always found it to be curious.
I can use some insights of what my own people in my groups have told me. The first time I heard about ketamine was from a doctor who was about 65 years old. He was in my group, and he was very depressed. Now, this is maybe 8 years ago, and he couldn't find any relief. So ketamine comes on the scene, and he signs up for, I don't know, many sessions at $500 a session. Now, if you take a ketamine infusion, from what people have told me, you get a very huge high, and it feels great. And you might hallucinate, you might get violent. Any of these things can happen. For this guy, first time I heard of ketamine, he took it, and he had those highs or whatever. It wasn't outlandish, but the results worked usually for just a day or two. Now, that was 8 years ago. He spent a lot of money and got nowhere. I now have a girl in my group. She's been with me for about 6 or 7 years. She comes every week. She is taking the ketamine infusions about once a month. For her, she experienced the high. She experienced the anger. But the ketamine treatment has worked for her for 1, 2, 3 months at a time. Now, I don't know if the difference over 6 or 7 years is because the treatment has been refined and is better now, or if it depends on the individual. So that's ketamine. That's what I know about ketamine. Marijuana. A lot of people in my group take marijuana. Now, the reason they take marijuana, from my viewpoint, is because it relaxes them and they don't have to think about how badly they feel. They just kind of zone out. I don't know how long the effects last. I know that the effects are pretty good when they're going through it, but do you have to do it every day? Some of them certainly do. So it seems to me that the marijuana is more of a Band-Aid approach. LSD and things like that, I don't know anything at all about. But I will tell you that people have gotten good results from eye movement, rapid eye movement, tapping, which when you are having a beginning of an episode, you start tapping yourself in a certain way. There is dialectical behavioral therapy. These all teach you how to get your mind under control better so you can have a better life. I place more emphasis on things like intensive outpatient therapy, EMDR, and those others rather than I do what I know about marijuana and ketamine.
Yeah, I mean, we're all different, unique human beings. The good thing about that is we all can find a different way to help ourselves.
Yes.
The bad thing about that is there isn't one way, so it's like a double-edged sword. We can find help through anything and nothing at the same time. That's the story of life.
I don't know in the next few years where we're all headed in mental health. I don't see any great strides coming. I don't see any national push coming to take care of the people on the streets or the people in clinics who can't get much help. I just don't see it happening.
Have you ever heard of MAPS, Steve?
Who?
MAPS. MAPS?
No.
Okay, so this, I think they're based out of either San Francisco or Denver, Colorado, but it's a government-funded and privately funded research institute for psychedelic therapy for people with PTSD, depression, all those kinds of things. So they're the ones that are kind of making headway, and they're people that are being recognized by the government as trying to use things like ketamine or MDMA or other psychedelic drugs for people that have these mental health issues, because we know that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We know that success rate of pharmaceutical mental drugs are about 50%, sometimes even less. 30 to 60% is usually the case, but there's other stuff out there that might be able to help these individuals as well. So just on your own time, if you want to look into it, it's called MAPS. I actually met one of the researchers in Miami before when I was traveling, and she showed me some of the research that they're doing, and some of it's really interesting. It's still new, it's slowly being funded, but if it could help 10, 20, 30, 40% of the population, why not? If it helps 10%, that's more than it's more than where we were at before.
Well, how long did it take the government to get the coronavirus set up so it saved millions of lives? Year and a half? If they do that for mental health,
they could, right? They could. Is that crazy? It's like they could, and you
they don't want to get involved in any of these things. They want the people, the billionaires, and they're not gonna. They can't cure it. They don't even have enough money. But nobody wants to take this very seriously. They talk about it, but I don't see them jumping in there and saying, we're going to fix this.
Yeah. It's not a political spectrum, I guess. And plus, we got election year coming up soon, so it's going to even put it on a lower part of totem pole,
Yeah.
It's like, it's right now it's all, division that we see in this world. And it's like, why is there only division going on? And why can't we just figure out a way to, support people a little bit more versus, focusing on the things that divide us, because you and I, we're more similar than different. We might disagree on a handful of things, but I guarantee we could agree on a lot more. We could agree on a lot more things that we could disagree on. But for some reason, out of its human nature, we always focus on these things. Same with like the negatives of life. You remember when somebody harmed you, but you don't really remember the time that they did good for you. So that's out of it's the way we're programmed or what. But it's just interesting world. It's not getting any easier. It's not getting any simpler. That's for sure.